Part 43. Blessed to have each other in this life, mused Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 421. The stone fell to the ground with a plop. The originally flat ground suddenly subsided. With a bang, a big pit more than 1 meter wide was broken. This is an agency. Musei was startled, took a few steps closer and probed in, and saw a big pit about 2 meters deep, and there was a trap inside, tightly biting the stone that Murongcheng threw just now. If anyone accidentally walks here, not only will he fall into the big pit and his head will be broken, but his feet will be cut off by the traps. Musei was terrified. Why did you show me this? Musei looked at him with fear in his eyes. Are you sincerely taking us out to relax? Well, what if, my mother and I don't know, we wandered here. No is extreme joy begets sorrow? Murongcheng laughed, and stretched out his hand to rub her head. I will lead you to play, can I let you come to this kind of place? Before you were worried about the safety hazard on the island, so I asked someone to arrange it. There is not a bodyguard on the island, so many traps like this are arranged, all of which are located in places where it is easy to land on the island. As long as there are foreign invaders, they will stray into them and trigger the traps. No matter how bad it is, Murongcheng can also notify the people under his command. Once they receive the news, they will come to rescue within 10 minutes. Murongcheng's arrangements were thorough, but Musei felt heavy in his heart. The more arrangements there were, the more it meant that there were many people who wanted to kill Murongcheng, so even a simple trip had to be so cautious. Do you have any plans for the future? Do you want to live like this forever? Musei couldn't help asking him. Aren't you tired of spending your whole life on guard against being killed? Murongcheng was a little happy when he heard this. A woman who cares about a man's future can't find any reason other than wanting to be tied to that man for the rest of her life. Zizi, are you worried about me? Murongcheng was delighted. He took Muse's face and kissed it again and again. Don't worry, for you, I must live a long life. Musei. That's not what she wanted to discuss. On the way back, Murongcheng kissed her several times. Maybe it was because there was no one on the island so he was unscrupulous, maybe it was because he sensed that Musei's attitude was a bit slack, so he made an inch of it. Musei felt that she was a sheep in the mouth of a tiger. She tried hard to convince herself that it was good to think about Murongcheng more, and let herself look at the existence of Murongcheng as a normal relationship. But when Murongcheng pointed to a big drying stone in the forest and said that he wanted to have her here in the future, Musei couldn't take it anymore. She covered her crimson Ruoxia's face and fled in despair. Want to have a serious relationship, why is it so difficult? When she returned to the camping place, Bai Wei had already processed the ingredients. The table was covered with a white tablecloth, biscuits and black tea, as well as cut fruits and barbecue. The smell of food attracts the animals on the island. A squirrel jumped up on the table, wanting to eat melons and fruits. The little boy followed behind the squirrel, nagging its tail from time to time. Bai Wei had no time to clone herself, she was feeding the sika deer with carrots, surrounded by 3 or 4 rabbits waiting to be fed. From a distance, people and animals live in harmony. This scene is vivid and interesting. It's a pity that the scene didn't last long, because as soon as the brother and sister came back with Sisi, the animals scattered in fright. Even animals know to run away when they see Murongcheng. Musei comforted herself in her heart, it's not because I'm useless that I run away, it should be an instinct, right? After Murongcheng came back, he took over Bai Wei's barbecue job. The meat was marinated by Bai Wei early in the morning, and it was already tasty, and then grilled over charcoal fire, the oil sizzled out, and the aroma entered the nostrils. After it was baked, Murongcheng cut it into small pieces with a knife and put them on the plates of Musei and Bai Wei. Musei ate one piece at a time, happily eating, her brows and eyes were full of joy. Like a charming girl who didn't know much about the world, her eyes were flowing, and she poured out agility and charm. Murong Chen was fascinated by her, and thought to himself, watch closely. This little thing is too easy to miss. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 422. Mu Zi and Bai Wei lived on the island until Chinese New Year. Although it was an uninhabited island, it was not boring at all. Go camping and picnic during the day, and go to the beach to set off fireworks at night. Sometimes I go out to catch fish and shrimp by boat, and sometimes I pick up shells on the beach. Even if it's just carrying a basket of carrots and feeding sika deer and rabbits at the door, it's also very interesting. Even if it feels deserted, it doesn't matter. It takes a quarter of an hour to arrive in Zhonghai City by speedboat, and there is no delay in shopping. Since her rebirth, Mu Zi has never been so comfortable. If possible, she really hoped that she could live like this forever. On New Year's Eve, Murong Chen took her to the central square of Zhonghai City. There is a tall clock tower there, and countless young people gather under the clock tower to wait for the countdown. When the pointer was about to reach 12 o'clock, the countdown began to sound in the crowd, one after another, getting bigger and bigger. Finally, at the last second, huge cheers erupted, and the salute burst into the night sky instantly. The new year has arrived. People hugged and kissed excitedly under the bell tower. Murong Chen also kissed Mu Zi. Unlike the tyrannical and domineering ones in the usual days, he kissed very gently, his lips and teeth were close, lingering, and when he let her go, there was an indescribable feeling hidden in his eyes. Zizi, from now on we will celebrate the new year together every year, Murong Chen said. Mu Zi's face was red, he hesitated to speak. Although it might spoil the atmosphere, she couldn't help but say, you brought me here on purpose because you wanted to kiss me, right? These days she was sticking to Bai Wei's side, Murong Chen's demonic claws could not be used. Murong Chen smiled, didn't answer, just pinched her nose lightly. After the countdown ended, the plaza was still full of jubilation and hustle and bustle. Mu Zi was so sleepy that she couldn't keep her eyes open. She didn't have the habit of watching the year. If it wasn't for Murong Chen who forced her out, she would have gone to bed by now. After returning to the residence, Mu Zi lay on the bed, feeling in a daze that someone had undressed herself, and then wiped her face and hands with a wet towel. She knew it was Murong Chen, and subconsciously cooperated with his movements. When Murong Chen wanted to take off his clothes, she raised her arms, and when Murong Chen wanted to wipe his face, she turned over and faced him. Murong Chen patted her buttocks lightly, and said with a smile, "You are so good, you little lazy pig." Mu Zi fell into a drowsy sleep. This sleep did not last long. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Murong Chen gently pushed Mu Zi to wake him up. Zi, get up, let's watch the sun rise. Mu Zi turned over, closed her eyes and muttered, "What's so beautiful about the sunrise?" The sunrise on the first day of the new year has a different meaning. Murong Chen coaxed her to get up in a low voice. But Mu Zi was too sleepy, she couldn't wake up. Murong Chen pinched her cheeks, seeing that Mu Zi was really sleepy, he wrapped her in a blanket, carried her directly to the car, and then drove to a high place on the island. At this time, the sky was full of stars, and the deep sky shrouded the world, and there was no light in the east. The sun has not risen yet. Murong Chen parked the car, carried Mu Zi out of the car, put his arms around him and sat down on a rock, quietly looking into the distance. I always wanted to watch the sunrise with her. It doesn't matter if he falls asleep, as long as someone is by his side. Murong Chen waited quietly. After waiting for a long time, the Tianshui communication office finally changed. He witnessed a red sun rising from the sea level with his own eyes, magnificent and dazzling. "The sun is rising." The girl in her arms murmured softly. Murong Cheng looked down at her. Are you awake? You woke up when you hugged me out of the car. Muzi smiled sweetly. She blinked her eyes, and her voice was as soft as when she first woke up. Murong Cheng, Happy New Year. A new year begins. I'm gonna start loving you. Are you ready? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 423. Happy New Year. Murong Cheng smiled. I'll give you a red envelope when I go back. His smiling eyes reflected the light of dawn, warm, gentle and handsome, so beautiful that Muzi could forget all his vulgarity and indecentness in this instant. He really loves me. This thought popped up suddenly, like a seedling that broke out of the ground, and it grew into a towering tree impatiently, filling the whole atrium like covering the sky and breaking the sun in her heart. There is finally such a person in this world who loves me. For some reason, a strong desire to confide suddenly emerged in Muzi's heart. She wanted to make a longer-term plan with Murong Cheng, instead of being sneaky like this. No matter how beautiful a relationship is, it needs to be carefully managed, and it cannot withstand being hurt again and again by a rough relationship. Muzi felt that with Murong Cheng's personality, he should have planned for the future of the two of them, but he didn't know if his plan met her expectations. If not, do you want to argue with him now? Thinking of this, Muzi gave up the idea of asking, reluctant to spoil the beauty of this moment. On the first day of the new year, you still have to be happy. The two snuggled up quietly on the slope and sat for a while, then Murong Cheng drove Muzi back. When they were approaching the door, they saw Bai Wei coming out wearing a light knitted gown. Mom, Muzi poked her head out of the car window and called out, why did you wake up so early? It's just after 5 o'clock in the morning. Bai Wei said worriedly, I seem to have heard someone's screams just now, and I am going to go over there to have a look. Muzi's heart skipped a beat, and she turned to look at Murong Cheng. Didn't you promise that nothing will happen during the Chinese New Year? Should the face slap come so fast? Murong Cheng's expression was indifferent. Mom, the road over there is not easy, you can go back, Zizi and I will go and have a look. Muzi also echoed, yes, yes, I was caught by my brother early in the morning to watch the sun rise, and now my stomach is growling from hunger. Mom, what are we having for breakfast this morning? When Muzi said she was hungry, Bai Wei's attention was distracted. How about eating dumplings? Okay. After dismissing Bai Wei, Muzi rolled her eyes when she looked at Murong Cheng again. You can't believe what a man says. Murong Cheng is also puzzled at this moment, who is so short-sighted and comes to find fault on the first day of the new year. What's more, those disobedient ones, he had Wang Zhan send someone to keep an eye on them. The forest was dense. Murong Cheng took the gun from the car and went alone. Muzi hesitated whether to stay and protect Bai Wei. After weighing the pros and cons, she finally decided to go with Murong Cheng. If Murong Cheng died, she and Bai Wei would definitely not survive. Muzi also took a gun and followed her. When Murong Cheng heard footsteps behind him, he looked back and said nothing, only told her, be careful, don't trip over. The jungle was quiet and silent, and Murong Cheng searched through several traps one by one, and finally found the dead intruder in one of the traps. This man was unlucky. When he fell in, he landed on his shoulders first, and the sharp animal trap sank deeply into his shoulder blades and chest. He must have tried to break free from the animal traps, but the wound was torn more severely and blood flowed horizontally. The wet soil was mixed with the smell of iron, and it solidified into a deep black together with the blood. Muzi only glanced at it, and then stopped looking. He didn't bring a gun, he only had a dagger in his hand, so he probably didn't come to assassinate you, Muzi said. They're thieves, Murong Cheng said flatly. There are many gamblers in Xianghai City. They lose their fortunes and are unwilling to leave, so they stay here to be thieves. The island of the rich has been uninhabited for many years, and the security is lax. For thieves, it is the fastest and most convenient choice for money. It's just that it's really unlucky for this person to touch Murong Cheng's island. What should we do now, Muzi asked Murong Cheng helplessly. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 424. Seeing blood on the first day of the new year is too bad. Will we be unlucky for a whole year because of this, Muzi asked depressingly. Murong Cheng pinched her face with a smile. This is called a good start, which means prosperity. Just talk nonsense. Muzi curled her lips. Hurry up and tidy up the corpse, or mother will be frightened when she sees the dead person. Murong Cheng took out his mobile phone and prepared to call someone. Muzi pressed his hand. How long will it take for your people to arrive? Murong Cheng raised his eyebrows. 10 minutes. It's too late. Musicong raised his chin to one side. Mom is here, and it's estimated that there are still 3 minutes before we get here. Bai Wei, who was worried about her children, also entered the woods and was walking towards them, calling out, Rong Cheng, Zi, are you all right? Murong Cheng and Muzi looked at each other, and made a quick decision almost at the same time. They each searched for all the dead branches and leaves they could find, and quickly filled them in the pit. At this moment, their tacit understanding reached its peak. Buried. Buried and out of sight? The kinked corpse, the terrifying face, and the bloody wound were all covered up. As Bai Wei was about to approach the last few steps, Muzi splashed a handful of rotten leaves, clapped her hands, and stepped forward to hold Bai Wei, blocking her view. It's nothing, it's just a monkey fell into a trap. It's bloody and ugly, so don't look at it. Bai Wei hesitated. I heard that scream sounded like a human. Ha! Musa smiled dryly. There is no one else on this island except the three of us. Mom, you must have heard wrong. After thinking about it, Bai Wei felt that it made sense. She glanced over the trap and saw bloodstains on the wall of the pit. She couldn't help frowning. It's so pitiful. Murong Cheng walked around the trap and said, Go back, I'll come over with a shovel and bury the monkey later. The family of 3 went back to have breakfast. Bai Wei cooked 5 color dumplings. The yellow skins were mixed with pumpkin powder, the purple skins were mixed with purple potato powder, the green skins were mixed with spinach juice, and the red skins were mixed with carrots. A big bowl full of dumplings of different colors is beautiful and lively. Muzi ate happily, almost one big dumpling in one mouthful. She felt that she had been tempered, and she could eat breakfast without changing her face when she saw a dead person, without affecting her appetite in the slightest. Is this the so-called black people who are close to ink, and those who are close to perverts are also perverted? After eating, Murong Cheng really took a shovel to bury the body. Muzi carried a few rice balls in her bosom and followed him. Murong Cheng patted her head and said, Go to sleep again, I woke up too early this morning. Muzi shook her head, held up the rice ball in her hand and said, Mom asked me to take it to the monkey. Does this mean erecting a monument and placing sacrifices? Murong Cheng and Muzi came to the trap again, still the same as before. Murong Cheng used a shovel to dig the soil to fill the hole, while Muzi squatted aside and watched, occasionally picking up some dead branches and leaves and throwing them in. Murong Cheng didn't let her get involved, lest she get her hands dirty. Muzi felt a little bored, and subconsciously picked up the rice ball and gnawed slowly. She was thinking, what would she do if the person who fell into the trap was not a hapless thief but a killer? In order to protect herself, will she kill someone? Thinking of myself, a good young man with upright views, who is about to be broken into a murderous and buried female devil by Murong Cheng. I am also very emotional. Ah, Muzi I suddenly stood up. Murong Cheng looked at her in astonishment. What's wrong? I've got sandwich. Muzi held up the rice ball in surprise to show him. It's filled with fruit pulp, with bananas and sweet salad. Murong Cheng. Good appetite. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 425. The rice balls are soft and glutinous, with a sweet sandwich. After eating one, Muzi I wants to eat another. When Murong Cheng was working, she ate 3 rice balls intermittently. Fortunately, the rice balls that Bai Wei made were small and exquisite, otherwise it would really spoil her. After Murong Cheng filled the hole, he piled another small slope on top of the hole. He looked up and found that there was only one sacrifice left. He laughed. Didn't that bowl of dumplings fill you up? I'm full, what I'm eating now is snacks, Muzi I argued. On the way back, Muzi I walked slowly, probably because she was too full to eat, and she was lazy and didn't want to move. Murong Cheng bent over to carry her on his back, and Muzi I lay on his back, chatting with him one after another. What are you planning to do in the position of patriarch? You have to guard against being assassinated every day, and you have to hide it from others. Mom, one person plays 2 roles, isn't life tiring? These are only temporary. Murong Cheng walked in the woods with her on his back, his steps still relaxed. Muzi I said, the past patriarchs of the 4 major families have all come to nothing. Could it be that you can't leave the Huo family? Why do you want to leave? Murong Cheng said with a smile. The land in my hands was fought hard by Huo Zheng and me. It originally belonged to me. Why should I let go? Muzi I said, but your surname is not Huo after all. If you continue like this, you will still make enemies in the future. Zizi, most people in the Huo family don't care who is the head of the family. Murong Cheng stopped and said seriously, what they care about is how much benefits the head of the family can give them. I can let them taste the sweetness. That's why they let me sit in this position. As for the enemies you mentioned, no matter which family has more or less thorns, I will subdue them one day. Muzi I was depressed when he heard the words, and after a long while, he said sullenly, speaking of which, you just can't bear to have power and wealth. Murong Cheng put her down. Why do you seem unhappy? Zizi, no one doesn't like power and wealth. I'm an ordinary person, so of course I love her. Without power and wealth, how can I take care of you and my mother? Muzi I held her fingers, and whispered unwillingly, but if you sit in this position for a day, my mother and I will be in fear for a whole day, in case someone finds out. Murong Cheng interrupted her, until the time is right, I won't let anyone know. When is the right time? 3 years, 5 years. Or 10 years, Muzi I bit her lip, and her shattered eyes looked into his eyes. You can leave the Huo family and let them fight among themselves, or, don't worry about the Huo family's marriage contract. Murong Cheng smiled lightly, and scratched Muzi I's face lightly with his fingers. What you said was childish. Muzi I pursed her lips and said discouragedly, anyway, in your opinion, everything I say is childish. Murong Cheng touched her swollen cheeks, stroked the broken hair from her forehead to her ears, and pinched her round earlobes. Zizi, I know you have a lot of concerns, you want me to leave Huo's house and be an ordinary rich young master, right? But we have to consider the actual situation. If I give up the position of patriarch, what will happen to my brothers? What will happen to Wang Zhan? Can they still be as relaxed and comfortable as they are now? The new patriarch will not. They will trust them, and they will definitely arrange the hardest, most tiring and dangerous jobs for them. Will the people they offended before get worse? Will they still survive? Muzi I was silent. How can it be so easy to get out of the body? But she is unwilling. not reconciled to being the unknown woman behind the head of the house, and even endured him being engaged to another woman. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 426. Even if he and that woman were just a pure cooperative relationship, even if it was just an expedient measure, I still felt uncomfortable. She knew very well that precisely because of the lack of this upright decency, the relationship between her and Cheng seemed to be covered in a haze that could not be dissipated, and the light could not be seen. I sighed softly in her heart. Joy is wrapped in melancholy. After the new year, they lived on the island for another 7 or 8 days, and they almost couldn't think of leaving. As time entered February, Xian called to urge them to go home and attend the banquet. The rich people in Xinjiang City have a trend of holding New Year banquets. From January to the last day of February every year, during these 2 months, all decent families will hold banquets, large or small. Commonly known as the Spring Banquet. This is an important part of high society communication every year, especially loved by ladies and daughters. Although the Mu family is in decline, they cannot lose their dignity, and the spring banquet must be held. Xian specially instructed Zi, if you have a good friend, you can invite them to play at home. Zi is studying in Gray, and his classmates are naturally either rich or expensive, and it is the glory of Mu's family to have one more. Zi thought about it, and sent messages to Zhang Xinyuan and Zhuang Jie respectively, inviting them to come to their house that day. Cheng sent her and Bai Wei back to Xinjiang, but he didn't go back himself, claiming that the company had a backlog of things waiting for him to deal with. This time Cheng was able to take such a long time to spend the new year with her and Bai Wei, which was already very rare. Bai Wei told him to pay attention to his body while working. But Zi had complicated feelings in his heart. Cheng's special status destined him to be unable to take care of the two families. When he was Master Rong, it seemed that there was no such person as Cheng in this world. And she only wanted Cheng. Returning from the warm and welcoming Xianghai city to the harsh winter of Xinjiang City, Zi was very uncomfortable. Nesting in the quilt every day, eating and drinking, she has raised a few caddies of meat. She was originally thin, but now she is fatter and looks better. Her cheeks are fair and rosy, and she is cute and cute. Zhuang Jie called her and told her anecdotes about the annual celebrity feast. It's such a pity that you didn't come. Almost all the top stars in the country have arrived, and the award presenters are all famous. Who do you think the Best Actress award is for this year? Zi doesn't follow stars, and doesn't know anything about the entertainment industry, so he asked casually, who is it? Zhuang Jie said a name, but Zi didn't recognize her, so she let out a lazy oh. Oh, you are so cold, Zhuang Jie was dissatisfied. Zi couldn't laugh or cry, I really don't know any of them. Zhuang Jie said again, young Master Gu asked you specifically, Zizi, I think young Master Gu is interested in you. Young Master Gu, Zi was puzzled, what did he ask me? Ask why you didn't come, Zhuang Jie said, I said you went to the island to celebrate the new year, so you couldn't attend the grand banquet. He didn't ask much at that time, but he made Gu Shao specifically mention it, Zizi, you are very good oh, by the way, which island did you go to? Is it fun? The topic turned to this trip to the island. Zi was happy to share, pick some interesting stories about Ceci and Xiao to Zhuang Jie, and before he knew it, he talked about the spring banquet at Mu's family. When you see it, you'll know. Ceci just looks scary, but he's actually much better than Xiao. Musa said, sometimes when I lie on the sofa and can't reach the remote control, Ceci can hook it up for me. So amazing. Muzi smiled, "Wait, I'll record a short video for you." She turned over and got up, and inadvertently saw the villa opposite the window. Muzenning was standing by the window, looking at her from a distance. "Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again." Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 427. The distance was too far. Muzi couldn't see Muzenning's face clearly, but she felt that the expression on his face must be stern. Muzenning has already become suspicious of her identity. He is holding back now, not because he doesn't want to deal with her, but because he didn't think of a surefire solution. Water comes to cover him, soldiers come to block him. Muzi doesn't feel sorry for him. She pretended not to see and drew the curtains. Musa turned around and went downstairs with her mobile phone, put Ceci's woolen tail cover on one end of the remote control, then recorded a video of Ceci curling up the remote control with the tip of her flexible tail, and sent it to Zhuangxia. Actually a little cautious. Ceci doesn't recognize any remote control at all, it's just fascinated by its own tail cover. Since it has a tail cover, it doesn't have to worry about Xiao's harassment anymore, so whenever Ceci sees a tail cover, he will send it back like a dog, waiting for the owner to put it back on. When Bai Wei came out, she saw her daughter playing with the snake, so she casually reminded, "Don't let it out on the day of the banquet, it would be bad if you scare the guests." Muzi was stunned, and muttered to herself, "No way. The banquet hall is in the big villa in front, and guests should not come to the small Western-style building. Besides, Ceci only wandered around the house and didn't go outside, so how could he scare people? However, maybe some guests will bring children, and it is not uncommon for children to go to the house to expose the tiles after playing wildly. It is better for her to keep Ceci in prison." Firstly, she was worried that the boa constrictor would scare people, and secondly, she was worried that the little boy would harm her family's boa constrictor. In a blink of an eye, it was the day of the Mu family's spring banquet. Since the early morning, it has been snowing lightly, and it is a bit like sleet, silky and pattering. The wet cobblestone path is glowing with luster, and thin ice edges can be seen faintly under the eaves. Bai Wei dressed up specially today, with her hair up, light makeup, and a dark green cheongsam with slanted breasts, embroidered with magnolia flowers, very dignified and elegant, like a classical beauty walking out of a painting. Muzi was amazed by Bai Wei. She has always known that her mother is beautiful, but no matter how beautiful the facial features are, they will look dull after a long time. Today, Bai Wei suddenly dressed up, and she has a sense of charm, even she can't bear to look at it as a woman. Can't help being attracted. Especially that slim figure, which is extremely graceful, without the slightest sense of burdensome middle-aged fat. "Mom, how on earth do you take care of yourself?" Muzi was so envious that she was going crazy. If she could have half of Bai Wei's demeanor by the time she was 40, she would probably just snicker. Bai Wei smiled and said, "Our Bai family has a set of meridian health regimen, combing along the meridians every night before going to bed. It can invigorate blood and vitality, and is very beneficial to the body." Teach me," Muzi said coquettishly. "You are still young, I will teach you when you are older." Bai Wei smiled and patted her head. Let's go to the front." The mother and daughter shared an umbrella and walked slowly along the bluestone path. From a distance, they looked like a pair of sisters. There was laughter and laughter in the front banquet, and guests came to visit one after another, which was very lively. Mu Rongxian was full of glory today, wearing a suit and leather shoes. He was talking with a table of guests. As soon as Bai Wei and Muzi came in, there were several aunts and aunts from the Mu family waving to them. "Is this Zizi? Oh, it's already this big. It's really a girl's 18th change, she's getting more and more beautiful. I heard that Zizi is studying in Grey now? That's great, she's really grown up and sensible." Muzi followed Bai Wei and said to them one by one, Happy New Year. At this time, there was a commotion in the direction of the gate, and Murongsuen's high-pitched voice was very clear. Hey! Manager Tong. Why are you here? You're welcome, really welcome. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 428. Mu Rongxian deliberately raised the volume, wishing that everyone in the banquet hall knew that Manager Tong had come to Mu's house for a banquet. Tong Wu still looked amiable, come to visit rashly, as long as Mr. Mu doesn't think I'm presumptuous. How could it be? Mu Rongxian laughed repeatedly, it's truly amazing that you can come here. Mu Zi remembered that Zhuangjia said that young Master Gu might like her, and now that Tong Wu was here, she couldn't help but take a few extra glances. It is impossible for Mu Rongxian to invite Tong Wu, the difference in rank is too great, to hand over the invitation is tantamount to humiliating himself, so, Tong Wu took the initiative to come here today. Tong Wu presented the gift box and said, this is young Master Gu's New Year's gift, Mr. Mu, everything will be auspicious in the new year. Young Master Gu is too polite, why did you prepare a gift? Mu Rongxian exaggerated again. After Tong Wu delivered the presents, he exchanged greetings with Mu Rongxian, and then he wanted to leave. Mu Rongxian personally sent Tong Wu out, and when he came back, several of his colleagues immediately came over with wine and said, Rongxian, you must remember to support me when you become prosperous in the future. Mu Rongsuen's face was flushed, and he replied modestly, don't get me wrong, young Master Gu and I have only met a few times. Someone exclaimed, have you met young Master Gu? In Qingjiang City, there are only a handful of people who are qualified to meet young Master Gu. Several people held Mu Rongxian even higher. Mu Zi was relieved, Tong Wu came over, neither gave her a gift, nor mentioned her name, to avoid making her a target of public criticism. Thinking about it now, what Zhuangjia said on the phone should have been an exaggeration. Gu Shao likes her? Ha, how is it possible? Mu Zi smiled and shook her head. The music stopped for a while, and after a while, the band changed to a more cheerful tune, and the banquet hall was filled with wonderful music, as well as the smell of roasted wheat and wine. Mu Zi observed carefully, the food, wine, knives, forks and dishes were all the best. The floor was covered with luxurious wool blankets, the vases were filled with flowers in full bloom, and even the staggered retro crystal chandeliers in the center of the hall were more beautiful than usual. Even more dazzling, each crystal stone is like a gorgeous gemstone, shining with dazzling light. For a spring banquet, Mu Rongxian was really willing to spend all his money. But he is a person who needs face the most, and his face is bigger than the sky. In order not to make his colleagues laugh, he will definitely try his best to hold the banquet well. Fortunately, it was the Mu family, otherwise, with Mu Rongsuen's meager income, how could he afford such a luxurious banquet? Unknowingly, Mu Zi's thoughts drifted away. Not long after, Zhang Xinyuan and Zhuangjia also arrived. Zhang Xinyuan came with her mother, and Zhuangjia was alone, but she brought a dog with her. With thick black and shiny coat and piercing eyes, it is a very energetic Doberman Pinscher. Zhuangjia introduced, it's called Maxis, or you can call it Susu. Let's compare it and see who is smarter, it or Sisi. Musa couldn't help laughing, forget it, it's about the same as Xiao. She didn't expect Sisi's IQ. Okay, Zhuangjia was in high spirits, let the three of them compare together. Zhang Xinyuan also smiled, a bird, a dog, and a snake, how do they compare? There were too many guests in front, so Mu Zi took Zhuangjia and Zhang Xinyuan to the back garden, so that the dogs would not be free in the noisy banquet hall. Just at this time, the rain and snow stopped, and the three girls walked out happily, and there were guests in front of them. Mu Rongxian came out to greet him in person, with a smile all over his face, you've worked hard all the way. Please come in, please come in. Muzi couldn't help but stagnate. She saw a group of people walking forward slowly around a lady, and Qiao Jingjia was accompanying the lady. Why is Qiao Jingjia here? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 429. It couldn't have been invited by Mu Zhenning. Gossip had been spread at the last banquet, and Mu Zhenning stopped interacting with Qiao Jingjia to avoid suspicion. Of course, at least on the surface, as for whether the two continued to hook up behind the scenes, Mu Zi didn't know. Seeing that noble lady with a baby in her arms, Mu Zi was a little curious, who brought a child to the banquet on purpose. Who is Qiao Jingjia hooked up to again? Mu Zi wondered in doubt, will she play tricks again? Qiao Jingjia should have seen her just now, why is her expression so calm? The more peaceful it looks on the surface, the more likely there is filth hidden in the dark. Mu Zi felt that she should be vigilant. She stood on one side with Zhuangjia and Zhang Xinyuan, watching Mu Rongxian welcome the lady and her party into the banquet hall with great hospitality. Mu Zi asked Zhuangjia, who is that woman? Your elder brother is really good, you can ask Madame Fu. Zhuangjia was shocked before explaining to Mu Zi in detail. Madame Fu is the wife of the secretary of the governor of Wenzhou, but the reason why she is famous is not because she married the governor's secretary, but because she is a representative of the Hui feminist movement. She was interviewed by Universal Times, which is amazing. Mu Zi didn't know who Zhuangjia was talking about at first, but when Zhuangjia mentioned women's rights, she immediately remembered, oh, you're talking about Fu Chajun, it feels different from the news photos. Fu Chajun in the news photos, with cold brows, slightly pursed red lips, and a shrewd and capable strong woman breath blowing towards his face. But the noble lady just now had a soft and gentle expression, elegant and restrained, she didn't have that fierce aura at all, and she could only vaguely see some similar traces in her facial features. Ms. Fu has become a mother, and her mother's love is flooding, so it's normal for her to dress differently. Zhuangjia said, she was pregnant with a baby in her 40s, and her heart aches like something, and she takes it with her wherever she goes. No wonder there were so many people just now. Zhang Xinyuan murmured, it looks like assistants, nannies, and bodyguards. Mu Zi was thoughtful. From this point of view, Fu Chajun and the Mu family have nothing to do with each other, and there is no reason to attend the Mu family's spring banquet, but looking at Mu Rongxuan's expression just now, it is not surprising at all, it is really strange. Could this be another trick by Qiao Jingjia? Zhuangjia said, Ms. Fu definitely doesn't like Maxu staying in the banquet hall. She thinks there are many bacteria on the small animals. Zizi, please take us to where you live. I haven't seen it yet. Mu Zi came back to her senses, smiled and said yes. In fact, Mu Zi's guess was correct, Qiao Jingjia did do some tricks in the middle. Fu Chajun is a well-known advocate of the feminist movement, and what he hates the most is sexism and gender inequality. Qiao Jingjia did what she liked. She participated in the non-profit organization founded by Fu Chajun, actively engaged in activities, and claimed that she had been treated unfairly. The 3-year internship was because the boss gave the promotion quota to male colleagues. The unjust case in the serial murder case was because he took the blame for the chief prosecutor. He resigned from the procuratorate because he was harassed by surnames. Qiao Jingjia's tragic experience immediately attracted Fu Chajun's attention. Out of sympathy and appreciation for Qiao Jingjia, Fu Chajun transferred Qiao Jingjia to his side as an assistant to coordinate and manage various affairs of non-profit organizations. The reason why she came to Mu's house for the banquet this time was also because Qiao Jingjia had hinted several times that Mu's house had a large collection of precious paintings. Fu Chajun is a fan of painting. Jiao Jingjia called and told Mu Rongxian that the governor's secretary's wife was in Xinjiang City recently. Wouldn't it be a little inappropriate if he didn't invite him to the spring banquet? When the governor's secretary was still in the Ministry of Justice, he was kind to Mu Rongxian. Mu Rongxian understood. On the one hand, it was intentional flattery, and on the other hand, it was pushing the boat along the way. So the strange scene Mu Zi saw happened. Mrs. Fu, who had nothing to do with her, came to Mu's house for a banquet. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 430. Mu Zi took her friends back to the Xiaoanglu to sit for a while, and then showed them around the snake house. Zhang Xinyuan was originally afraid of pythons, but usually he always heard Mu Zi talking about Sisi, so curiosity prevailed, and seeing Sisi wearing a ball of wool hat on his tail made him feel even more interesting. Surprisingly, Maxu didn't respond to Sisi, instead he barked when he saw Xiao, and was stopped by Zhuangjia several times before he stopped. It's great that you all have pets. Zhang Xinyuan couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Mu Zi asked, don't you also have starlings in your family? But I didn't raise that starling, Zhang Xinyuan said sadly. I want to keep a pet to accompany me, but when I think about it carefully, I don't know what pet I like. Mu Zi thought for a while and said, maybe it's because the opportunity didn't come. Actually, I never thought about keeping pets before. Sisi was my brother who didn't have time to take care of him, so he let me raise it, and I picked Xiao from the windowsill. Zhuangjia said, Susu was my birthday present from my father when I was 10 years old. The girls were chatting in the living room, and Mu Zi entertained them with fruits and snacks. The banquet ahead was not over yet. The three of them sat and talked for a while before preparing to go to the banquet hall ahead. Can Susu stay here? Zhuangjia asked. I'm afraid Mrs. Fu won't like it, and spreading it around will make me look vulgar. It was unconventional to bring a hound to a banquet, but Zhuangjia and Mu Zi were close, so it didn't matter. Yeah, Mu Zi nodded. Stay here, there is so much noise in front. Maxu must be very restrained staying there. When it was time to leave, Mu Zi remembered something again, leaving Zhang Xinyuan and Zhuangjia at the door, and hurried upstairs alone. When she came down after a while, Zhang Xinyuan asked her what she was doing. Mu Zi said, it's nothing, I locked the snake house. Sisi will open the door with his tail, and he can't let it run out. They returned to the banquet hall again, and the atmosphere of the banquet was more lively than before. Many men and women gathered around Mrs. Fu. The men wanted to curry favor with the governor's secretary, while the women admired Mrs. Fu for making a career. Mrs. Fu brought the child, and the topics were mostly related to the child. An aunt in the Mu family said, this child is so cute, look at this nose, this small mouth, hey, he will be as beautiful as a princess when he grows up. Mrs. Fu laughed and said, they say she looks like her father, so I'm relieved. Her father was a famous handsome man when he was young, much better than me. What's the matter? No matter whether the child looks like a father or a mother, the appearance is absolutely the same. Someone asked how old the child was, and Mrs. Fu smiled and replied that it was almost 1 year old. Bai Wei likes children. When she sees a baby, she thinks of Mu Rongcheng and Mu Zi when they were young, and can't help but say, it's not easy to conceive in October, but seeing the smiling face of the child, no matter how tired you are, it's worth it. After hearing this, Mrs. Fu's expression darkened, and she said indifferently, I'm in good health, but I'm not too tired. Bai Wei froze for a moment, not knowing that her words offended her. At this time, Mrs. Fu had already smiled and exchanged greetings with the others. An aunt from the Mu family pulled Bai Wei aside and reminded her in a low voice, don't take it to heart, middle-aged pregnancy is very dangerous. She gave birth to a child after many hardships, and the most taboo is to be told that she is old and not in good health. Such words. That's it? Bai Wei was stunned. In fact, she really didn't think the other party was old just now. Maybe it's because she is more sensitive after giving birth? Bai Wei has a soft temper that doesn't hold grudges, and she doesn't take Madame Fu's cold face seriously. It's just that Jiao Jingji raised her eyes and looked this way where she didn't pay attention, with a successful smile on the corner of her mouth.